Hey everyone, hope all is well. In this video, we will start to implement and create the user model and know how exactly we can implement the user API slice. And after that, we will know how we can consume it to fetching the users from the endpoint. So let's get started. Let's go back to the website, which we will consume the users from there. And actually, we have this data, and also the website provide us with the Swagger, where we can see what exactly the behavior, what's the keys we can pass to, and it's user friendly, so it will be easy to try the stuff here. So, for example, if we need to try the fetching user list, we can try it and pass, for example, page and pair page. So we will execute and we will find what exactly the data will be there. So let's make a model for the user. Go back here, and for user list, we can create a folder for the model. And this is will be user. Let's add the object here and start with define the type, call it user, and add all the keys from the endpoint. It's ID of type number. We have email of type string. And finally, we'll have the avatar. And the idea of adding optional operator here to just make sure that we guard the keys. The application will not be crashed or broken if anything happened or if we didn't receive any of these keys. Okay, now we defined the user model. After that, we will need to define the response itself, which is array of this stuff, or we will have page, total pages. So we can call it actually type user response. We will have data, which is array of user. Also, we will need the total pages. It's number. I think we will need just two keys for now. Well, after that, we will need to start with to define the user API slice, where actually we're gonna inject endpoints and use and know what how exactly can fetching the data. So let's add folder here for user API slice. Let's define it. And here we will use the API size, because from here, if we open API slice, we don't need to initialize the base URL again and so on, all this stuff. So the user API slice will be under umbrella of API slice. Okay, so let's back to user API slice, and we do it like API slice dot inject endpoints. And for inject endpoints, actually we have two operations or methods. If we are fetching data and use get method, now in this phase we can use query. But if we later on we will implement the delete, this is mutations, the endpoint building mutation. So let's start with the get and know what we can do. First property here is endpoints. And for endpoints, we will define the builder. And inside this builder, we will need to define what exactly the operation we will do. Here we will get users. So as we mentioned here, we will implement a query. So the builder dot query, and inside this we'll have the query, and here we can pass whatever we need to pass to the endpoint. For example, we might need to pass ID or some specific data to the endpoint, so we can add it here. But for this get users, for now we just needing nothing. Later on, while we implementing pagination, we will need to pass the page number, for example. So let's keep it empty for now and update it with the page later on after we make discussion with pagination. For now, we will define what exactly is a URL. And for this endpoint, as we see, it will be \users. Second property, we will need to define what exactly the method we do. So we can make an enum. And let's create a folder here, call it helper, and define here operation. And this will be enum. And actually, we can just add get here, because this will be the most method for get users, but I prefer to add it on enum instead of just hard coded it. It will be better. So let's go here and make it get. The operation might be get, might be delete, might be put, and so on. And for sure create. So instead of hard coded it, we can simply make it call it from the operation enum. Well, second, the final thing we can take it's a parameters, and we will use parameters for passing the page, and it will be later on through the discussions. This is how we define the builder for query. we need to have something for beside the query, which is called transform response. And here we need to define what exactly the type of response, and it will be better to define it instead of just add any or not defining the type, because we can easily, if we, for example, type item dot, we will directly can access the data. Here, the response will be of type user response, and this is where returned with the response. Finally, there's something called provide tags. Okay, and the idea of provides tags is it can be selectively individual cache data when an action occurs that changes the underlying data. So, for example, if we do editing, deleting, and stuff like that, this helps ensure that your application always has up-to-date information without unnecessary refetching. So in short, we can say that provides tags is a way to manage the cache for your application's data fetching layer and optimize performance. So we can add the provide tags here to be, for example, users. And here, just because we didn't add this to the API slice, if you remember that we will need to update the tag types here, depending on the user slice. So we will add here the tags users. If we go back to user API, the error is removed. So now we can simply do something like this. Just export constant. What we have here is use, let's define here equal, say user API slice, and if we define the query will be displayed. Okay, now we will need to use get users in the user list components to just fetching the data instead of hard coding this mock. And actually how we can use it for things, let's define a constant and just use get query and apply it. Here we can pass anything, any property we will need to pass to the query, but so far we don't need anything because as you see we didn't add anything to the query, so we will keep it empty. After that, let's have a look what exactly we have inside the use get user. So we will find that we have the data, and data, this property contains the response data returned by the API. We also have something called fetching, and fetching, this is property indicate whether the query is currently in progress and actively fetching the data. Its success is also Boolean property indicate whether the API call was successful and the data is available in cache, and as error from its name indicate if there is an error occurred while during the API call. Error will just fetching what exactly the error happened. And the final thing we also have something called refetch, and this property or this actually function can be called to refetches data from the API. For example, if we need to make or apply poll to refresh, we will need to use this to refetching the data. Okay, so use get users query hook takes an object as its argument that applies any parameters needed, as I mentioned. So here will be empty. And use get users query hug provide an easy way to manage data fetching in the React application. Okay. For now, we will need to define the data. Okay. And we will need to also define if it's fetching. We will need to know is success, is error. And final thing will be refetch function. Okay, now we just can get rid of these data. And for now, be empty here. On refresh, and on refresh, this will call the refetch function from users query. Also, we can use as fetching with the refreshing property on flat list. So let's pause this. Pass here is fetching. What else? And for unit testing purpose, we will need to add test ID for sure. Let's call it user list. Here we need from this data because the data will return it user response. We will need from this data to just get the data. Actually, we can call it response. The data like this, and from the response we just need to get the data. Let's yarn iOS to from the application. We need to go back to the store because I mistyping this. This is short period user path, by the way. So this is short period user path because we need to define the path of the reducer itself. Let's try to run the application again and see what will happen. And yeah, here we go. This is endpoint as a data from the endpoint itself. And also we can track the endpoints called by React Native Debugger. And I already has a video for explaining how actually we can use React Native Debugger. I'll leave this as link on the description below, and I think it will be helpful because yeah, now we can apply the ball to refresh and see what exactly is the endpoint we had. So yeah, we reached this point. Let's try to make more stuff because we will need to add a loader, for example. So we will need to add another global components for the app loader. So let's go to the global components here and create a new one, a new folder. Call it app loader. And one file for the design. Let's define here constant app loader. Exported. For the uploader, we will use activity indicators from the React Native package. So what exactly we will need to path for activity indicators is we need to define what's the size of the indicator and what is the color. So let's define type here for the pro. Type uploader approves, and we will need to define the color, and it might be optional because we can make a default value for it, right? So let's do it like this, and also the size. And the size for indicator, it might be small or large. So we can also create enum to the size itself and define the cases. So we have a small one, and we have also large. The size here, it might be optional as well, by the way, because we can define a default value for it as well. So the type of size will be size, and we can do it like this. We have size and color from uploader props. Here we can define a view, and this view will have the style, and we can call it uploader style dot, for example, container. And inside this view, we will have activity indicator, and this activity indicator we will need to define size and color. So let's add size, and this is will be the size we passed. If there is no size passed to this components, we can set it, make this size dot, for example, large, and also we can define it here, like added default value here. Okay, let's keep it like that. We need to make color or set color, and here we can pass the color which is passing to the component. There is no color added. We can add a default color, which is, again, it's not from here, it's our color. Black color. Okay, so here in the style itself, we can call it a folder style. Define the style sheet, import it from React Native, and create the style. We need to define the container. And for sure, we need the flex to be 1 because we need to set the height of the loader, activity loader. And we need to set the background color to be transparent because we need to display what exactly behind the loader. It can be transparent. Also, we need to justify the content to be centralized, to center, and align items, it will be stretch. After that, we need to export this uploader style. We will need this app loader component in the user list, and how we use it, it will be something like when the endpoint is loading or it's fetching the data, we need to display this loader on the screen to inform the users that the getting users is in progress or stuff like that. Let's back here, and with this, after the flat list, actually, we can check if the data is fetching. So we can display this app loader. And no need to pass anything because we already added a default value, and we don't need to customize that size or color for now. And this and then the operator means that we will only display the loader if the data is still fetching. So it's still trying to fetching the data. Otherwise, the loader will be disappear. So if we load the application, let's see what exactly. Oh, I forget to just import the view and for sure the style. So let's back again and try to reload because the data is displaying so fast. That's why we don't have. But if you see that it's already added. Okay, well, in the next video, we will talk about pagination and how implement it with RTK and also filtration and how we can filter a specific element and so on. See you there. Thanks for watching.